Hey everyone, welcome to another Hoodzpah Design Live. I am your host, Amy Hood. It's been a crazy day. We launched a brand new script font called Hoodzpah that I designed and I've been working on since last year. And last night we were up till midnight. It was like our old magazine days when you're rushing against the print deadline. But we got it live. It's up if you want to check it out. It's over on the brand new HoodFonts site, hoodfonts.com. We're so excited to have it live, and we got to give a special shout out to our friends at Trust Design. They helped us design the site. Let me just share it with you. It's so good. Let me go over here to share my screen. So here's a look at the typeface. Let me go to just the HoodFonts site because it's so cute. So finally, HoodFonts has its own home. It's moved out of mom's house. It's no longer on the Hoodzpah site. We're going to slowly start taking all the fonts off of the Hoodzpah site so it can just be our brand studio. And then all of the fonts and the typefaces will have their own place to shine here on hoodfonts.com. And you can see we've got all these cute little stickers and layouts and all these fun things that link through to all of our different fonts. We're releasing like 3 to 4 new fonts a year at this stage. So it just made sense that it should have its own place. But let's really get to the meat of the topic. Hoodzpah, our newest script font. I'm so proud of it. You can do casual. See how it's like really casual here? It's like great for like maybe sports or just like, maybe like more down-to-earth style branding. But then we can also do this bougie, ornate, elegant option. Very ornate, very gorgeous. If you head over to the site, you can test out the font in the type testers, and we are doing 25% off for launch week. So all you have to do is enter the code East Bay all the way. Make sure you just copy it here in the flag at the top, and that way you can get the casing right. But yeah, 25% off for this week for launch because we just want to get it in good hands. We want people using it. We want to see it. So yeah, definitely tag us at HoodFonts. We're on Instagram and TikTok. We love seeing how people use it. It's honestly the best part of the whole thing. Somebody just sent me the Denny's menu. Denny's, king of the slam, king of breakfast, is using Beverly Drive, and it's just, it never ceases to floor me to see our fonts out and about. So thanks to Trust Design Shop, Hannah and the crew for helping us with this site. Hannah's in the chat right now. And thanks to Tom Reifenberg, who helped us with doing the development and Framer. And also thank you to Justin Viega, who is also helping us with development and just getting the site looking great. We're so pleased with it. We're going to keep making tweaks and rolling out different things. But for now, the V1 is live. All right, what's up to everyone in the chat? We've got Polly, we've got Steve Shanabog, what's up? Natasha, Wayward Ghouls, love that name. Whobody Creative, Radha from all the way in India, Jeff Webb, so many good friends here. Reifenberg, what's up? And yeah, we're really excited because today we actually get to share with you all some real client work, which is so rare. A lot of people don't like us sharing, the behind the scenes process because obviously NDAs, and they want to make sure that people aren't seeing unchosen concepts and getting attached to it, that sort of thing. But Adam is so cool. Adam Kingman, if you click the link in the description, there's a link to his creative practice and kind of what he's all about. Definitely check it out. But Adam Kingman is a product designer in the physical and digital sense. And let me open up my Figma discovery so I can kind of like give you all an idea of who he is. But he basically makes products both digitally and physically. His digital products are like, actually helping like theme parks figure out how people will get through the park in an easy way. It's like UI, UX, but not just on screens, also in like, real life situations like, theme parks. It's very cool. They have some amazing clients. And so that's his day job. But in the evenings and on the weekends, he's making gorgeous products made from like reused things like old sails and old ropes. So you can see him here with his, he makes these beautiful like fish and whale lights out of old sails. It's very cool. You've probably seen one of his, ooh, let's see if I can get this out of the way. One of his viral TikTok videos or viral Instagram videos of him making the rope bucket hat. It's one of my favorite things. And he's just really talented. So when he reached out, he realized that we were the people that were behind the Luca title treatments for Disney, or at least we had done some explorations. So when he saw that, he reached out and he was like, hey, can you make me a word mark? I've been kind of stuck on it for years. I've tried to do it myself. He's obviously very talented creative, but sometimes it's just really hard to do your own logo. And so it just felt like a perfect match. His vibe is very much like work with what you have and just make something. And that's always been kind of our motto at Hoodzpah. We've always been kind of, it's a very Kentucky mentality that we grew up with our mom and our grandma of just like, just try it, see if it works, and you can always optimize it and use what you have because you probably have enough to just start. And so we said, yes, let's do it. So he's branding himself as Kingman, and it's a lowercase k, and that's going to be kind of the overarching brand for kind of him as a creative and as a, like a maker, but also for his products. So if we think about the brand traits, this is what we do for any project. We really like to kind of do a little bit of a discovery, even if it's just for a logo, especially if we're doing like an actual, brand project. We'll always do a discovery and dig into, who are you? Why are you making? What makes you different? What are the brand traits here? And tell us a little bit about your audience and how you're hoping to connect with them. And it just helps us kind of get an idea of like, what are the adjectives that we need to be weighing these design decisions that we're making against? Because if it's just like make it look cool, that's like an impossible task. So having these brand traits are one of my favorite things to, measure and test whether my design decisions and design solutions are actually working. So for Adam, when we talked with him on the phone, first of all, he's such a nice and pleasant dude. If you saw Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman's old show Making It on NBC, he was a contestant on Making It. It's very cool. He's just very personable. He loves to teach people. He talked a lot about Mythbusters and like some of those like fun TV shows that kind of show you how to make things or how to do things. Bill Nye the Science Guy was another person that he mentioned. And he also mentioned just liking things, from yesteryear and things that were made to last. So that's where we came up with some of these brand traits after speaking with him was, number one, crafted. He's making these things by hand. He's designing them. He does use tools and power tools and things like that. But at the end of the day, these are handmade items by a human, not fully by machines. He's also very clever. The ideas are playful. They're very intentional. This is not just like function. It's very much like playful function. The other thing is that he's resourceful. So like we talked about, he reuses sales, he reuses old items to give them new life. And that is such a cool niche aspect of his brand. And so I'd love to kind of tap into that somehow in the Wordmark. Not like obviously maybe, it's not like we need a big recycling symbol, but it would be very cool if we could kind of have like a simple nod to the idea of like reuse or, giving old things new life somehow. So we're going to try to work that in. And then approachable. So like I said, Adam is so sweet. He's so nice. He loves sharing his process. Most of his videos on Instagram are him sharing, his work, sharing how he created something. So it would be really fun. We just want to make sure that this brand really reflects that approachable kind of, sharing of knowledge kind of vibe. Okay, so I want to also say hello to Wise Arts, Wayward Ghouls, everybody that came to join us. It's so nice to have everybody here. Jeff Webb, what's up? So this is kind of the base bones that we need to kind of understand our client. And we'll usually do this with every client at the beginning. And then we'll also not only get the brand traits for our customer, for our client, but we'll also get descriptors for our client's client, their audience. So what are the kind of people that he's looking to attract? Because we want to make sure that this vibes with them as well. So the audience, he described them as curious, minimal, and intentional. And I love that. That's really going to help us kind of make sure that we're tapping into the right aesthetic vibe. So when he showed me his mood board, my mind was blown because these are like my favorite all-time logos that he put on his mood board. And I was like, I know I'm going to do a good job at this project because these are my favorite, these are my favorite image references. So this tilde logo, I love how it's a little bit blurpy. It looks like it's been scanned in and vectorized over the years. Somebody lost the original file, they vectorized it, live traced it, and it's lost some of its crispness, but in the best way. I love this look. And then the Makita logo is one of my all-time favorites. I used to love it when I would see it on my dad's tools, by far one of the best ones. Also the Milwaukee logo. Tool logos are some of the best out there, especially for scripts. And Adam was saying like he really wants a script of some sort. He likes the idea of like an italicized script, but he likes the strength and the boldness of like the Tilde and the Makita logos. They're not too soft. They're not too organic. There's a lot of form there because, you know, a lot of Adam's designs are very much like form based. There's rigidity meets an organic quality, right? So Adam Kingman, what's up? He's in the chat. That's so awesome. So yeah, we were basically just kind of nerding out on some old tool logos and just saying like, if this could be like embossed in metal into wood, like his products are physical. That is such a blessing. I feel like so many of our projects these days, it never sees physical, tangible, you know, reality. It just lives on a digital screen. So when we were talking about this logo, we were like, this is going to be etched in wood. This is going to be embroidered into maybe like a tag that goes on a hat. This is going to be embossed in metal that could then be like embedded in wood. Like we really want to make sure it has enough like thickness to be able to do that, number one, practically. And then number two, we just want the vibes to feel like those old tool brands, you know, where it's like maybe it's a little bit softer edges, but there's still like a strength and like a rigidity to it. He also put in this Titleist logo, which I absolutely love, but we were both laughing at because the S is so off, the E leans backwards, the L, it's like kind of off, but I've never really noticed it until I looked way too close, which just goes to show like, you can actually ruin the vibe of something. Something can have an amazing vibe and you can like over finesse it, over optimize it. That's something I'm always trying to remind myself of when I'm designing a logo or a word mark is like, remember the rules, but also forget the rules of type, you know, like what feels good, what, you know, just like let inspiration take you where it needs to take you. You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes we can just get stuck in the rules. So I also really love this tilt one. It's very similar to the Tilde one. And then down here at the bottom, this is more of like supporting language. Now we're not doing a full like, you know, brand sprint for Adam. We're not giving him like type and color or anything like that. He's a very talented, creative person on his own. So he's got a lot of that he's going to do on his end. But I did think we could start kind of testing out some cool little lockups because he gave us so much information up front in his, he gave me like this amazing PDF like full of ideas. And it was just a lot of helpful info that kind of sped up the discovery process. So I was like, it would be fun to just kind of like test out fonts, you know, see what we could do with some little lockups, especially, or if only to test out the logo in comparison to those little lockups because he loved this little Japanese icon set that it's actually like a recent project. I think I saw it on the Type Directors Club as being a winner, but I have this on so many mood boards. But I love these little icons that are like monoline for the most part, mixed with some thicker lines, but very simple, but very delightful, right? It's going back to his whole, you know, clever, resourceful. It feels clever, but it also feels like just totally practical. So we're gonna test out some of this and see if we can come up with some things that might be fun to pair with. So this is kind of the vibe that we're going for. And then this is what we sent to Adam. He loved it. He was like, yep, this feels right. This feels like a good encapsulation of like what I'm trying to do here. And the only thing that he added was he sent me this really cool little, oh, let's see if I can find it. Let me pull it in here. Let's see. He sent me this cool little Venn diagram because Kingman is serving as for two purposes here. It is his name, it's all the things that he shares on social, but it's also the physical goods that he makes, and that's the hardware element. So I really like this little Venn diagram that he made for us, and we'll keep that in mind as well. So if we jump right into Adobe Illustrator, which is usually my go-to for creating logos, I will sometimes work in glyphs if it's like something like really detail oriented, but I think for now I'm just going to start in Illustrator because I'm really comfy in here. And then if I need to finesse, I can always go into Glyphs app and finesse it. But I'm just faster in here, so we're going to start building in here. And let's see. I think we'll start with, I usually always start by just pulling in my sketches like I have here, and then I'll pull them onto a layer of its own so that I can lock that layer and then take the transparency down to like 50% so that I can see over the top of it and ink my vectors in. So I'm just going to go to transparency and I'm going to go to 50, and then they're there, but they're kind of ghost there. And this just helps me keep everything organized. The next thing I'm going to do is I'll unlock that really quickly, and you can see I've started drawing some guides for myself. This is really helpful for me. I like to draw my baseline guide, I like to draw my cap height or my sender height, and then I'll also draw my X height. Sometimes I'll do overshoots if that's helpful, which it probably will be here, so I'll get some overshoot guides going on. The overshoot is just like where your rounds of your letter forms go below, dip below the baseline or dip above the X height, and it's just for optical it's for optical sizing. When you look at a round shape versus a straight shape, optically it looks smaller even though it's exactly the same size. It's really interesting. So you don't have to make things perfect, you have to make them optically look right. So I think it's kind of interesting. When you get into type design, you're so rigid about like rules and things have to be equal and the stems should be the exact same thickness, but it's like pretty soon you realize like optical looking adjustment is like way more important than exact matching thicknesses. Some things should definitely be matched, like, you know, straight stems should be matched. The thickness, it should always be the same for the most part. But it's good to just remember that rules are there for guidelines, but they can be broken. So I've got my guidelines here. I put them in a blue so that I can still see over the top pretty easily. And I'm just going to start doing in some italic lines for myself as well. I'm just going to grab these in here, and I'll probably do those maybe potentially in a different color just so that it's a little bit lighter, but it's still there. Maybe I'll do like, usually I do something really annoying, but sometimes it can be too annoying. Let's go light blue, like cyan blue. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll just grab the thickness of my stem, I'll option drag over, and then I'll just go Command D a bunch of times, and that just repeats the function that you just did in Illustrator. And then I have that thickness kind of all the way down so that I can see it. All right, I'm gonna grab that. That cyan is like really hard to see. Let's do this light blue. That'll be easier. Okay, I'm gonna lock that layer. It's kind of a lot to look at right now. I do apologize if it looks crazy. And then I'll just go on my layer on top, and I'm just going to start vectorizing in. I really try not to be too like, I try to just go with the flow and just start designing, because the worst is when you're like, I have to make this perfect. It's like you do, but you can also optimize later. So you can kind of like overthink how you start. I just like to start anywhere, get anything on the page. So I'm going to just option drag this down, this cap kind of ending so that I have the same angle. And then I'm just going to close up that shape. And then what I can do is just start bringing over all of my vertical stems. And kind of, it's interesting when you have an angle like this, because it doesn't, the X height is kind of, it's like, it's a little all over the place. I think I'll kind of start it here, and then we can kind of adjust from there. Yeah, see how that goes. Option drag over here. I'll probably need to do some finessing on, we'll just kind of, let's just keep going. This is kind of fun. And Uncle John said, done is always better than perfect, homie. I agree, at least to start, especially like when you're doing first round concepts. I used to have a really bad habit of like absolutely perfecting every concept, and it was just a round one, and it's like the client hasn't even seen it. Like they need time to figure out what they like. As long as it you know, visually gets across the vibe and the intention, like you don't need to make this camera ready because they might not even pick it. So I've kind of like realized like that's a waste of time. That's a waste of like creative momentum to be doing that. Get it to where it looks good so that they can get the vibe, but don't make it too perfect. All right. And if we can start kind of getting our angles on this first one, that's going to serve as our guideline for the rest. Actually, I think I'm going to keep that there, and I'm going to add an anchor point down here and do more of like a nib ending here and see if that looks a little better. Let's see about that. And sometimes if the guides are like really distracting, I'll just start pulling things off to the left, but for now I'm just going to keep going and see kind of how this goes. All right, so I like that kind of little ending that we've got there. So I'll just option drag over, and I might even just gonna go here. And I'm just gonna cut off the ending and reattach here and start seeing how this could like play into my eye. It's looking good. The cool thing about Adam's name, this Kingman name, is there's so much rhythm. Look at all this rhythm. Like there's so much nice repetition of form that I really like. So the key will be like, how much do we play into that and how much do we need to differentiate that so that it's actually still legible? So that's going to be a fun one to kind of mess around with. I'm kind of wondering if my angle is a bit too severe. We shall see once we kind of get further in. But I do like that it feels very, like it feels like there's a lot of movement, which is nice. Okay. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and I'll Pathfinder these together and then I'll open this corner. I wish Adobe Illustrator had an open corner feature. That's something in Glyphs app that is so helpful. When you open the corner, you just basically like, you know, cut the line segment or the path and then you just make it an overlap instead of a corner. And then that way, if you want to move, like say I need a little bit more negative space in, you know, in between the I and the N, I can just move this independent of this other line. And it's just really helpful for keeping your lines if you're trying to keep similar angles. It's very helpful. All right, so we've got that. I might draw this N a little bit different so we don't have too much repetition of form. Let's see, I'm gonna start, it'll look similar, but it won't be exactly the same. And I might get some rounding there too. Adam was saying like, he really liked, you know, the angularness, but also like a mixture of angularity or sharpness, and softness of rounds. So it'll be fun for us to kind of play around with once we have this sort of started, like where do the rounds come in? How do we bring that in? What looks right? All right, so maybe we'll kind of go like that. Maybe it gets a little thicker. And I'm also always kind of thinking about like, where are my upstrokes? Where, like if I was drawing this with a pen, where would my downstroke be, which is the heavier weight when you put more, you know, pressure down, and where would the upstrokes be? Those would probably be a bit finer if I was using like a brush or a brush pen, or maybe even a Sharpie. So it's like, that's kind of nice to think about too. All right, so there's that. And maybe I'll just option drag this over so I can have that upstroke. And another thing we'll think about is maybe we need to think about making this a little bit more condensed. We'll kind of see once, you know, once we get the forms in place, but it's kind of a long name. So I need to kind of consider that maybe making a condensed variation of this would be nice and would be helpful. Or we could try and figure out like a stacked version. That could be kind of cool. You know, like in, if we're thinking about like his social media avatar, which he's very, very active on social media, that will be a big place where he interacts with his audience. So we want to make sure we give him, you know, something that works on social media in some way. We need to plan for that in some way. Maybe it's not this version, maybe we give him a different version, but that's something that we're definitely going to be thinking about. Okay, this is looking good. I'm constantly zooming out as I'm doing this to just kind of see what the vibe is, how the overall picture is looking versus the zoomed in picture. All right, and then I might go ahead and open this corner too, do that same trick of just cutting it and then doing an overlap here. I'm just bringing those anchor points to crisscross, and then I'm reconnecting them. And then that will let me move things independently. Yeah, when we worked on a logo for SeatGeek, we had the version that was straight across, and then we had the stacked version. So we separated it out. So, and I think it could work because it could be like king on one line and then mun on the other below it. I think it could work out pretty nicely. So we'll have to see how that works. And Mixel Pixel I think I'm saying that right, Mixel Pixel. They said even a monogram would be nice. I know, I think that would be cool too. I was asking Adam if he thought that would be interesting, and he was saying maybe a K, but not, probably not like a KH for Kingman hardware, because he's not sure if he'll be using that as prominently. So, but I think I am going to try that. I think that's a great idea. I love a monogram. If I can make a monogram for someone, I'm going to do it because they're just endlessly helpful. It's like if you want to put something in the footer, you need a little branded moment, but you don't want to repeat the logo again. It's like, you know, you can't just keep doing the logo. It's the reason that I hate step and repeat like backgrounds at events. It's just like the overuse of the logo kills me. And I don't know, is anyone else like that? I just feel like the logo is supposed to be sacred and special and used sparingly. I feel like it's like you have to miss it. It's like Denzel Washington said, he's like, everyone's like too worried about being constantly available and constantly online. He was like, you have to let people miss you. And I was like, he's just so smart. Denzel is so smart. He's got it nailed. Okay, this is looking good. Rada says, I love a monogram too. Yeah, Rada, you always do. You always blow out all of your brands into such a cool way. All the different monograms and everything. You've always got like 2 secondary logos. You've got all sorts of stuff going on. That's what I like to do too, is like give people a lot of different assets that they can play with and utilize. All right, so sometimes the smart guides don't listen and you just have to use the align tools. All right, let's get, I want to do like a, I really like on all the old, we were talking about tool brands. And I really like, if we think about them, how they would have like special underlines or special, like, you know, ligatures or things like that. It was just like one thing that added a little bit of oomph. And let me just bring a ruler down because I can't see if that's working right. Okay, there we go. Get a guide down there. But I think that just has such a like, it's like made with tools, made with your hands. It's just like, it's that classic vibe. And Adam's very much into those old logos, and so am I. So I think it would be really fun to try and work something like that in. This is way too low, I think. I think there's like a lot, quite a bit of negative space. So I'm just gonna increase that up. Hannah Smith says, this is why I've ignored the Trust Design Shop Insta for months. Extremely intentional. That's so funny. I know it's so hard to keep up on the social media. But I always like to think when I'm being slack, Hannah, you're so right. I just say, you know what? You gotta let them miss you. Denzel said it. You gotta let them miss you. You want people to see you in the thread and go, in the feed and go, oh yeah, I'm so glad that they're doing well. Look at, like, what cool thing are they launching now or whatever. Not just like, oh my gosh, these people again. Why won't they go away? It's a tough dance, man. It's a tough dance. Okay, that's kind of cool. I really like that. All right, I'm gonna hit save. Make sure that we don't lose anything here. Rada says, and we've missed the Trust Design Shop posts. We have. I noticed as soon as Hannah started posting all the gorgeous Trust Design work, I was like, man, these people are prolific. They're so talented. If you don't follow Trust Design Shop, they're some of the best out there. Like I said, they helped us with our brand new HoodFonts site when we were thinking that we really needed to like do a new site for HoodFonts. It was very much like, who could we get to help us that is like great at web? Because I notoriously hate doing web. It's like, I know how important it is, but it's not my natural state. Jen is much better at it. But I was like, we need help. We're busy, we need help. And we were like, trust, it just makes sense. All right, looks like I've got, my points are a little, I'll have to make sure I double check that. This is the one thing that I always try to remind myself of, is just working as big as you can so that it's easier to have your points meet where they should. When you work too small, it's just like really hard to get things to line up sometimes. So I'm making the M there. Natasha says, I want to be Hannah when I grow up, even though I'm like 5 years older than her. Natasha, I feel that. Although, Natasha, you just launched a new website too. Oh my gosh, it's stunning. I love your new brand. Natasha, drop your link in the chat because I can't believe how gorgeous all the recent work you've been posting is. I feel like you didn't post for like a couple months and then it was just like the most stunning things I'd ever seen. Okay, so we've got the M. Something that I'll do is like, obviously you want to repeat the shapes that you have in your N in your M, right? Like that loop, that curve, it should be kind of similar. It should be kind of informed by one another. But The M I'll usually always make a little bit more narrow because it can get really wide, awkwardly wide, if you just do a straight, like if you just completely mirror the shape. So I'll almost always narrow it out. So I'm just gonna go back over here and start doing that. So what I'll usually do is I'll grab my lasso tool and I'll start selecting segments, and I'll just shift click over. That was one shift click over, and then 4 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll see how that's looking. Yeah, that's better. And I might even thin out. Sometimes there can be too much congestion. Like right here, there's too much congestion and it's looking a little too dark. Your negative space is just as important as your positive space. So where the ink lies is just as important as where it doesn't, because that's what helps things be legible, right? Especially when you're imprinting them. Like Adam's going to be embroidering this. You need lots of good negative space if you're going to do like embroidery and stuff like that. So we might even do like some angled like ink trap style, like almost like capped ink traps. That might be fun to play around with too. I think it'll be a cool look and it could be helpful. So we'll definitely play around with that. And then what we might do is just, this is where that optical thing comes in. We might just narrow this out a bit since there's a lot going on in that area. And sometimes type designers will call that color. There's a lot of color there. And so you can just thin things out so that they optically don't appear so heavy. Yeah, that looks nice. Okay, I'm gonna hit save. Okay, Adam says, Amy, this is looking so good. Learning so much. Oh, Adam, I'm so glad you're liking it. There's nothing more nerve-wracking than the client being in the room with us, but also it's like so fun. And I feel like, again, like I said, your mood board was like so up my alley that I was just like, I really feel like I can like do something here, at least close, and then we can riff on it. So already, I mean, we haven't even finessed anything. This is just like first pass, and this is looking pretty good. I can see some things that I want to tweak. Obviously, there's a lot of extra space between the K and the I, the G and the M. We could move some, you know, create some more distance there, maybe even narrow out the M a bit more. But the vibe is good. So I'm just going to keep going and keep just creating these base forms. And then the best part after that is just riffing, option dragging, and creating new iterations. That's like the most fun part. So I think I might, this G, I almost want it to kind of lean out a bit more. So I'm going to select these anchor points and just have that kind of angle out a touch more. Maybe just one. I'm trying to think of how I could kind of get it to feel. You know what? It might be adding, I'm going to leave it for now, and we'll, like I said, we'll kind of optimize once we kind of start iterating. Let's just get our perfect forms and then we can go from there. Okay, so I've got the G, the bowl of the G can inform the A. The A can also get this side of the G or the I. It's so fun once you kind of start getting in a rhythm because you're like, oh wow, like it's just really starting to flow. So that A is already looking a little awkward. We're definitely gonna have to figure out how we want to kind of optimize that, and then we can mirror that in the G. My gut says you just kind of close it up a little lower. So we'll see how that ends up looking. That's pretty nice. And it does kind of make me think that I kind of want, maybe I will try it here. I kind of want that to be a little bit more angled as well, but we'll see kind of how that looks. And then maybe this comes over here, because it's like I kind of want to open up that A a bit more. Actually, maybe it is more like, if you think about, like, I like to draw with my finger to kind of think about it. If you're drawing the A and you're kind of getting jaggedy with it, maybe you're going down and then up again. So it's like we're creating one more brush stroke essentially. So it would kind of go down here. And then maybe this kind of gets a little wider because it would go down there. Let's see how that kind of starts to feel. I think that might help us a bit. We might have to finesse like how thick and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Okay. Erica Barajan says, wish brand design live is kind of like a regular thing. Oh, girl, we are trying to do it more often. And if you subscribe, we've been doing more than normal, but we usually do about 1 or 2 a month. Usually more like 1, because client work always kind of keeps us busy and in a way that we are just like, shoot, we just have to get this proof out. But we've been doing a lot of live type design. We've been doing a lot of brand design when clients are cool with it. and it has been so fun. It has been so fun sharing process. We used to do it a lot on Adobe Live, and I just loved it so much. It's I learned so much from YouTube University myself, so it's been really fun. All right, I'm not sure. This might be one of those things where I really have to sleep on it. This one, the G definitely looks way better, but sometimes you kind of need to just try something out to kind of see how it might work. We'll continue working on it, but I definitely don't think that's the answer. I think I'm going to try and make this vibe work if I can. And we just scooch it close together, maybe. But yeah, we'll figure that out once we kind of iterate. Okay, yeah. All right, and then last but not least, we can repeat the N, which is really great. Like I said, so much good rhythm in this name. This is one of those names that's like a gift. Like my last name is a gift. Hood? Are you kidding me? When someone I call in on, you know, some sort of like, you know, you have to pay a bill or something, and they're like, "What's your name?" And I say, "Amy Hood, like Robin Hood." And they say, "Oh yes, I know what you're talking about." Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and option drag this out and kind of get a better picture of what we got going on here. Okay, that's looking pretty good, honestly. There's definitely some things that I want to finesse. I think it would be fun to make this a little bit blurpier, but overall the bones are pretty fun. Okay, so let's just try and get our spacing a little bit more even. We're going to space out the M and the G a bit more and just kind of get a good rhythm going. Okay. And then I think what I might do on this A and this G is just select these two similar anchor points. And I almost think those go a little bit thicker. I'm so used to working in glyphs now that I try to use the shortcuts for glyphs and they don't work. Let's see. Be like this. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Natasha says, "Amy, do you have a favorite pencil for sketching?" Literally any pencil that's anywhere. I can never find anything. I always lose my keys. So any pencil that is readily available. I do have a lot of these like mechanical ones. Of course, I put it down somewhere and I don't know where it is. Is it here? No, it's not here. Okay. But these like mechanical ones are great because there's always lead and, you know, I don't have to sharpen it. And it's nice because it's kind of a sharp point, so I can work kind of small. You can see that this notebook, this is one of those ugly books from John Contino's brand, but you can see that a lot of times I'll just work really small. Sorry for my my barn hands, as I call them. But I like to work really small sometimes. Like this notebook is only like 5 by 7, so like having a sharp pencil is helpful when you're working small. Other times, if I start really big, like this is pretty big. This is like full width. That's okay if it's like a more, you know, just like a standard pencil, you know, just sharpened, if I can find one. So it's really whatever's on hand. But I do love a dot grid notebook though. I'm all out of them, so I've been having to kind of draw my own guides. But a dot grid notebook, if you want to get into like, you know, creating custom word marks and creating custom lettering, is so unbelievably helpful. And it just helps you create your guides without you having to, you know, do too much on your own. So definitely would recommend going online and getting some of those, or going to go over to Michael's, man. I went over to Michael's. It was so fun. They have all that extra stuff that you don't need, but as soon as you get in there, you're like, yeah, I need another Stanley, you know, mug. I need like a giant pumpkin decoration, even though it's only July. Yeah, I need a bunch of felt for a project I'm never gonna do. I bought so much stuff. I bought like vinyl to create custom hats for HoodFonts, and I bought a bunch of hats. I'm so excited to make like custom vinyl cut hats out of our fonts and just like sell one-offs. It's gonna be really fun. So yeah, we have a laser cutter, like a little printable laser cutter that we got like 10 years ago. I just plugged it in. It still works. I cannot believe it still works. Shout out to the brother, Scan and Cut. And so yeah, I got the vinyl for it and I'm excited to make some stuff with it. I've been inspired by Adam, by his like just make it attitude. So yeah, we're gonna make some fun little custom merch, just little one-offs or like 3 or 4 offs, enough for our team and like maybe to give some away. So something that I recently saw, I think it was Will Dove was posting about it. He's another talented type designer that I love to follow. And he got to work on the Goodyear project, the Goodyear rebrand and Wordmark. And he was sharing the Fujifilm blimp, which is another iconic blimp. And I love how the Fuji logo is self-contained. I think that is such a cool element, having that little frame. There's something very cool about it. If we could make it work, I would love to try a few with that. I think it adds immediate like toughness to any kind of script, and it kind of feels utilitarian. So I'm just gonna use my, okay, then I can get all these cuts. I like to mirror all the cuts when I can, but we'll do that at the very end. And then I'll have to match my negative space as well. But I think that could be something fun to play around with. You know, connecting the K. We could also just do the M. Oh, we could have the N kind of come down and create the second underline if we felt like it needed some balance. But I kind of like, I like when something's a little asymmetric. Like that's what makes it memorable. It can't be too perfect. If it's too perfect, I don't know, it almost becomes like just a square, just a block, you know? So I kind of like when it's just underlining like king or something like that. Plus, ooh, y'all, that gives us room to put little secondary identifier badges, right? So it's like if he's doing, you know, his goods line, we can go over to the Fort Fonts app. Let's see what kind of fonts we might want to try. I'm going to go to the type tester, and I'm going to go, I usually like Termina, but I'm going to just search hardware, which is the phrase that I want, and maybe like, ooh, Adam, you're in Bend, Oregon, right? I could look this up, but since you're in the chat, I figure we could just ask. Reifenberg says, any other reticle grid fans in the chat? What's reticle grid? Is this like the ultimate grid notebook? Hannah's saying that Baron Fig dot grid notebooks are like the best. Baron Fig, those pens. Somebody gifted me a pen. It was so nice. Fuzzy Bison, what's up? Fuzzy Bison, Carla helped us with some Nicoletto's packaging this year. Always love working with Carla. Fuzzy Bison says, same. I was so inspired by Draplin's famous make your own mantra, make your own shit mantra. I think he did a whole TED talk on it. I love that vibe. I love that vibe of just like grab the scraps you have. We all have those buckets of art supplies from our, you know, art school days or design school days. I have been painting. I wonder if I can bring my painting over here. I have been painting again with art supplies that are 20 years old and they still work. You just add a little water, and I'm going to see if I can get through them and see. Some of it's a little janky, but there's something fun about like using what you have. So yeah, I think that's so good. So Adam said, yes, I'm in Bend, Oregon. Okay, so maybe we also search for like Bend, just in case it might be fun to do like a little location badge. I almost don't mind adding a few extra things in here because like I said, Adam did so much upfront work for like giving us a really great rundown of his kind of creative direction for what he wanted, that it might be fun to add a few little extra things in case he likes them. So a font that I really love that Fort does that I've been using a ton, it's so usable, is Figure. Figure is so good. I also really love Fieldstone. We're using Fieldstone on our HoodFonts site, and you would never think that it would blend with a script font. It does. It looks phenomenal. It's a monotype font, or not monotype, what do they call it? Does anyone know what it's called? Monospaced. Fieldstone is monospaced. And if we go, let's do maybe something a little heavier because our type is quite heavy. So we'll go heavy, and then we'll just space it pretty wide. And I like this one because this kind of harkens back to that Japanese imagery that he really liked as far as like what it could be paired with. So that might be fun to play around with. I'm just kind of starting to think about like, what are the pairing fonts that could look good here if we were to think about this? So let's go to Figure, which is my other current favorite. This one is amazing because it's got that classic grotesque feel of like 40s, 50s, like, you know, state parks, bumper stickers, things like that. Like that R is, I'm always looking for an R like this, and I just feel like this one is so good. Okay, so maybe we just do bold. It also is a super family. So there's condensed, there's narrow, there's your regular, and then there's also extended, which is really nice. So I'll usually go to extended. Yeah, we'll do extended. Alexander says, sending a what's up from the squad at Durham Studio. What's up, Durham Studio? Oh my gosh, I hope y'all are okay with all the flooding in Kentucky. Oh my gosh, it's been crazy. I was texting some family and just like, is everyone okay? But Southerners are built different, man. I remember when I lived in Kentucky with my grandma, there'd be a tornado coming and she'd just be watching it come in and I'd be like, everyone get down to the basement right this minute. It didn't make sense to my California brain. But yeah, Durham Studio is another amazing studio. Just doing, I love a mini studio. That's what we are. And I feel like some of the best work comes out of there. All right, so if we also thought about maybe Termina, that's another font that I really like. I think that would fill this whole space in an interesting way. And maybe we could do it a little smaller. So those are some interesting pairings. I'm liking kind of how that's looking. I like the idea that you could tuck text under there. I think that looks really nice. But I also really love this idea of like the frame. So we might think more on that. I think I'm just going to keep inking in ideas and then come back with fresh eyes to this to start finessing the forms a bit more. Sometimes if you try to like edit it too quickly, it's like you haven't had time to almost like step away from it, if that makes sense. So one fun idea I had was like making the K feel a little bit more unique within the word mark so that you could pull it out as a monogram really easily. So I think this could be a fun idea for that if you all can see this. I don't know what you all think. Is like, does this look interesting? Is it awkward because it's lowercase, that little flag? I don't know. It could be fun, but it also could be weird. So anyway, curious what y'all's thoughts are there. And then this script at the bottom is kind of trying to blend, kind of like the tilt vibe, kind of trying to do something a little bit finer. Maybe it feels more like a mono weight, but it will have some sharp kind of angular qualities. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking about which one I should do next. My other ideas down here, I really like these ideas that I sketched after. This one, the bones on this one feel good. And this is kind of an interesting departure from what Adam had tried himself, because Adam actually sent me sketches of the word marks that he had done, and they were really beautiful. And so this over here, these two up here are kind of like my versions of what he did, just kind of like taking that and riffing on it and seeing what I would do. But he did say he'd like to try a few other things, so I sketched some other things too. So I think I'll ink this one in because it's a monoline and it should be fairly easy to kind of get a feel for. And it might inform something. And Rada's saying the first full frame version. Yeah, I really do like this as well. This like fully enclosed, like I said, Fujifilm vibe. I think that could be really cool. And he did mention wanting to try one kind of like straight up and down, not italicized version. So I think that's going to be a fun one to try. All right, so I'm just going to go in with my vector strokes and just start kind of inking this in, placing some anchor points. And I might even, well, because we'll get a little specific with it. Sometimes I'll do like 2 points so that it doesn't have that big, you know, this little thing, which is so annoying. You can also update that obviously in your stroke settings, but all right, let's just go, just this. Kind of creating some, okay, and this might need to move over a touch already, I can tell. I'll just kind of get that a little bit further. Maybe I'll create some little guides for myself just for an idea of like these. All right, okay, we'll put those in the light blue and we'll make those a lot thinner. Okay. So Jeff says the K with the flag elements are interesting and could that angular G loop. Oh, and you could try that angular G loop. I really like this angular G loop idea. It might not work, but I really want to try to make it work because, you know, like everyone's been mentioning the Levi's Stadium, how FIFA is requiring all these huge brands to hide the branding of the stadiums. So like Levi Stadium in San Francisco had to cover up the logo, but you can still fully see the enclosing shape. And that is the power of like badge design in a brand, right? So there's something fascinating about that. And so I like the idea of like really strong forms that almost create a badge like or a shape to them. I think that could be really fun and something that could become memorable for sure. Okay, sorry about that. Sometimes. All right. Ooh, this is already looking really good, honestly. I love a monoline. I really love a monoline. There's something really special about it. Okay, we're gonna go a little thicker, I think. And then I think it would be fun if this felt a little bit more flat as well, like it kind of goes down. So I think I'll just add some anchor points and try to get that effect a little bit more. Okay. Who Body Creative says, love a good monoline. Monoline feels more like a signature, which goes great with this type of work. Yeah, I fully agree. That's such a good point. I didn't even think of it that way, but yes, that maybe is why I really like it for this vibe. It's kind of funny how you have instincts, but sometimes it's hard to quantify. So when we make the proof deck a little later, that's kind of the fun part where you say like, my gut said this. Sometimes you know why, but sometimes, you know, you were just like, this works. And then you're trying to explain why does it work? And it's fun because it's just like in design school or, you know, art critique, you know, you have to have a why. You can't just be like, it just looks cool, because that's just not valid. So, I mean, I guess it is, but it's like you're trying to sell a client on a vision and idea that's bigger than just it looks cool, because that's going to change. And I like story. And so to me, that's a great story that Whobody put together, is like, it feels like a signature. It does. It feels like a signature. And that is the perfect vibe for what Adam's whole ethos is. All right, so I'm going to make the bottom of this loop of this G a little bit wider. I often like to do that, and you might even notice that in some script fonts that you use, that sometimes the bottom of the loop will be a little bit, that bowl will be a little bit wider than the top. All right, so we're going to go like that. And then follow this along. And we can either do like a straight angle, or we can do kind of like a curve on it. Let's try a few things and just see what looks the best. I can also do some width variation once we kind of get the core shapes, and it'll be almost like imperceptible to the human eye, but it will make everything read a little clearer and just look a little bit more finessed. Almost nothing is a pure monoline. Almost everything has slight little tweaks for that optical alignment and for that optical reading. Okay, so we can finesse that a bit. It needs to be, probably does need to go over, but so maybe we'll just, this can go down a touch and this can be a little bit more angled. Scooch that over. Scooch all this over a touch. It's so interesting, like when you create all these options and then you have to step away to let them marinate, because almost always I'll notice that my spacing was really weird. It's like you were so focused on the letter forms that you couldn't really focus. You didn't have the brain power to simultaneously focus on the spacing. So that's the thing, like when I let it sit and I let it marinate and I come back with fresh eyes, that's always the thing where I'm like, whoa, this kerning is terrible. I'm so glad I'm gonna fix this. Or like, this is way too wide, it's way too loose. Like it would look much better if it was, you know, a little bit tighter spaced, or things like that. Okay, this is looking very cool. Sometimes if I can't see, like I said, I'll option drag things out to kind of get a better feel, but this is very clear to me that this is working. Okay, so I almost think I would, let's cut this here. And that's actually kind of a perfect M. Okay, Protest says, are you planning to switch to Figma anytime soon? I keep hearing it from designers online. I love Figma. I'm obsessed with Figma. We do it, all of our decks in Figma. So we are already using it. It's not my favorite to design in. I still prefer Illustrator. The Figma design tools, I'm just still getting used to them. I want to throw my computer out the window when I have to draw a vector in there. Like, it's just not intuitive to me, having come from Glyphs app and Illustrator. So maybe I'll try it, like try to like get used to it, but right now I'm just so fast in Illustrator. I'm a little set in my ways. I just know I can get exactly what I want here. It's kind of like I never even did Procreate or any of that. Like that just felt more of a hassle than just like sketching and then going straight into Illustrator for me. And I know a lot of people really love it, but yeah, just for me, it didn't really make sense for my process. All right, I think it's weird. This looks a little bit more narrow. I'm just gonna see if it is. So okay, that does curve a bit. So I think I'm just gonna grab my lasso tool and mirror that touch more. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Okay, this is looking neat. I really like this. And I like how it's like, it's angular, but it's fine. It's very unexpected. And we can try a couple of different weights on this monoline, but this is looking very cool. And the other cool thing about a monoline is I love doing this little trick that kind of makes it look worn and old. And I'll show you guys what I do for that sometimes. Okay, we're just gonna go like this. It's like you don't want to overly faux age something because it's like then it feels kind of pastiche. But I think there's like little things you can do that kind of just make something feel, have that more like hand-drawn feel, or that like, you know, like imperfect feel, honestly. Because when something's a little too perfect and rigid, it loses some of the soul. You know what I mean? Natasha says Figma stresses me out. Natasha, you mean for like vector drawing? Because yeah, it for me too, as far as like drawing. For decks, love it. For designing web stuff, love it. We are getting really into Framer as well. Like Framer has been absolutely amazing. We built our HoodFonts site in there. We built our freelance and business and stuff site in there. Like it's just so easy. It's like everything about Figma, but you can immediately publish to a website. And it's just so handy. Oh my gosh, I love it. My friend Joseph Tadaro does all their like learning content, and yeah, I'm always just like, man, Framer's amazing. Okay, there's something weird going on with this anchor point connection. Oh yeah, sometimes there's like a rogue ghost anchor. So I'm just gonna delete that. Okay, my A and G overshoots need to go down a little bit further. They're a little bit too high up, and you can probably see that. See, the A is looking a lot better now if I turn off my guides. The A comes down and looks a lot better than the G. The G looks a little too high. Looks like it's floating above the baseline. All right, so we'll copy this over and we'll delete that old one. Okay, so let's see. Protest says, when I trace my own letterings, it always feels wrong. I can't overcome thinking there must be a right way to do it feeling. Any suggestions? Oh man, I think that's just like, I did a TikTok about this and everyone agreed. It was like, the sketch just always looks better than the vector. And I think that's why everyone loves John Contino's work so much and people like him, is because he manages to keep that grit and texture. So sometimes it's like, if I don't know if there's any right way to do it per se. I think it's just like trying as many things as you can. And it's like, maybe you just straight up live trace it. You know, it's like, remember when we used to do that? I used to do so many hand-drawn logos, and I would just scale it up really big, draw it really clean, and then live trace it in Illustrator, and then just kind of finesse it. And it was a vibe. It was a vibe for the whole Tumblr era. And I love that it's kind of coming back a little bit, like that kind of blurpy hand done feel. Like I really do. But yeah, I don't know if I have like a suggestion. I would say, Protest, if you are feeling like you want to really like understand like the guiding principles of lettering, there's definitely some books and some courses that I can recommend. Let's see. Do I have it up here? Let's see. Okay, here's one that's really helpful. Designing Type by Karen Chang is a really good one. This one is great to just understanding like why letter forms look the way they do. It's really heady. It's really in depth. It's really heady. There's like intense graphs about why things are designed the way they are in different styles. But if you're a nerd and that helps you kind of understand like form and why do we draw it this way? Why does it need to get thinner at places? This book by Karen Chang is like, it's so in depth and such a good read if you have like, especially if you're making a lot of custom type and you want to get into font design. This is great. And then another one that my friend just wrote, Elliot J. Socks, I think it's in a different room, but it's called Universal Principles of Type. It's very similar. It has a lot of different guides about drawing letter forms. And then, oh, I don't think I have it. Again, I think it's in my other office, but Ken Barber's Guide to Lettering, I think it's called Guide to Lettering. His is a very visual and much more condensed, helpful kind of guide to typography and lettering. It's really visual. It's really fun to look through. It's got a lot of his sketches. He's so talented, and he also runs workshops too, but I learned everything from the book, and then I took the workshop and I was like, oh, I already learned it in the book. So if you just want to get the book, that's great. Or if you prefer to learn hands-on, his workshops are really great, and he does them so frequently. So definitely check that out. And then, yeah, if you're someone who's like just curious about how to talk about type, we also have typography poster that we sell that I find very helpful. I have it on my wall because I like to be informed when I'm talking about type. But this little poster that we sell has helped me level up talking about type with my clients, making sure we're all on the same page. Is it a terminal? Is it a counter? Is it an aperture? What are we talking about? What do we call these things so that I can edit this the way that you want it? This has also been really fun. I was always looking for a cute one, so I made my own. This is very Adam Kingman of like make your own if you want it. So anyway, we sell those in our shop, and that's like it's like one of our best sellers. People love that one. It's so helpful. But sometimes things like that, like just kind of like upping your knowledge of the thing can be helpful for you to kind of get out of your head and just realize like, yeah, my instincts are right. I know what I'm doing. Like I don't need to be overthinking this. I think some of the best designers, like Susan Kerr, she designed all of the original Apple typefaces, and she was just an art school graduate. Like she didn't have any special training aside from, you know, her artistic design training. Not to say that that's nothing. I think it just goes to show like you don't need any qualifications to start and to try. And then you can figure out like, where am I lacking? Where do I wish I had a little bit more like clarity? And then you can find some books and courses that can kind of like fill in those gaps for you. But I've always been the kind of person that just likes to try it. Like if I want to try to make a typeface, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to see if I can do it and see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? Okay, I'm just going to start spacing this stuff out. And then Hannah Smith said, is it a crotch? Oh my gosh, I have a TikTok that I'm working on that's like, it's basically like, what perv named all of these letter form, you know, terminologies? Because it's like crotch, it's like, what are some of the other ones? There's some really funny ones. Anyway, I agree that the terminology, sometimes you're like, am I going to say this to a client right now? And are they going to understand what I'm saying? Do I risk it? It's very funny. Rada said, also Oh No by James. Yes. Oh, I just got his book and I've really been enjoying it. His book is really interesting. It's his newest one because it's equal parts like helpful guide. Remember all those things that he used to post where he used to tell you like why letters look the way they do, what things were called. He had this Instagram series that was super popular and super fun and super educational. Well, he put that into a book, but he also made it kind of a retrospective and an autobiography. So kind of talks about how he got into type, you know, where he went to school, you know, how his teachers kind of helped encourage him and things like that. It's a lovely read. Victoria, what's up? How are you doing? All right, so here's another option. Sometimes it's fun to kind of just put a few things beside each other and see like what corners of the mood board are we starting to hit, and see like where can we fill in some other options to kind of get a good smattering of what this could be. I'm really liking this monoline. Like I can just imagine this in metal on something like big time. Okay, I'm gonna bring in this N a touch. iSpire, what's up? That'd be a good TikTok. You can't just drop tittle in a meeting. 100% iSpire. That is so funny because sometimes I really try to use the proper terminology because otherwise everyone's like, you know, the little, you know, swashy thing. And you're like, oh, this swash? They're like, no, the thing up on the top. It's really hard to customize type with a client. So like using the terminology is really helpful. But sometimes you're like, am I about to say tittle in a meeting? Just like you said. It's a risk, and you say, you know, the tittle, the I dot. You quickly follow it up with a brief little description in case anyone wonders. Rada says, loving the signature style version too. Me too. Yeah, I'm really liking this. I think again, I'm going to sleep on all of these and then kind of finesse spacing. And there would be nothing worse than making you all sit here with me as I like tried to like minutely finesse spacing. So I'll do that. I'll do that on my own time for sure. But yeah, I think we're like creating some really fun initial options, which I'm stoked on. Okay, maybe that goes a little bit further out. Okay. All right, and then the cool thing about this Kingman one is we could pull that down and just see like, what does it look like if it's a little heavier? It's like, does that work? And then, ooh, maybe if it is a little heavier, I could see maybe this K almost getting even heavier because it kind of optically looks a little more diminutive for some reason. Maybe this goes a little higher and it kind of gets a little more flat. There's something kind of cool about that. And maybe I could really mirror that in the G's. Right now, this kind of has a flat round and then my G is quite round. So maybe I try to kind of flatten the G out and kind of create a little bit more rhythm there. let's see if we can do that maybe and see how that works out. I'm going to add an anchor point. Okay. And try to flatten that out a touch and see. That looks interesting. I need to blow up this artwork because I can barely like grab my anchor points. And then yeah, so then this could also be flattened out, I think. And usually what I'll do is I'll always, like, if you grab your width variation tool from your toolbar, I often like to thin out where things meet at the joints because it almost always gets too thick. So if I go back to 8 there, so like I'll just double click at the end of an anchor point and I'll maybe go down to like 6 or something. And that just gives you more negative space in here so that, maybe we'll even do one here, so that it just reads a little bit cleaner. And that's what I mean about like just slightly finessing things at the very end. That might be a little too close, and maybe go like that. But it'll just help that read a little bit better. I like that flattened out G. That's very cool. That's very stylistic because the loopy G and A is like kind of the obvious solution. So I really like that this is kind of like Rhoda said, more like a signature. It's got a little bit more of a perspective, right? Uh-oh, what's going on here? Let's get rid of this old one. Get the new one. Protest says, I hear people saying trust your eyes when it comes to typography and lettering, but it's about self-esteem. How to gain that self-esteem on your own as a designer, I don't know. Oh man, that's such a good point. That is really honestly the trick of being an artist, is like in one part you want to be perceived because you love the thing that you do and you want to share it. And then the minute you're perceived, you're like, you feel a little bit inadequate. I just launched that font today and I was like, and I had made all these like stickers and graphics for it with my friend Zevi, who helped me with the graphics. And all of a sudden I was like feeling really insecure about my graphics. Like, are these lame? Is this what anybody's interested in right now? But it's like, you kind of have to just push that thought out of your head, because if you let that thought win, you literally will never create anything. So I think it's one of those things where it's like a lot of it is mental gymnastics a little bit, and just being like, no, that's not the right thought, and I'm not gonna like give that thought space to take root. You know, so it is, I think a lot of it is just like kind of a mental practice too, if that makes sense. It's like the fact that you're making something, you're like 10 to 15% of the population. You know, it's like most people aren't making something. That's like a big thing, you know? So yeah. All right, so Hannah says, oh wait, Fuzzy Bison says, Mike Meyer's sign painting book is a good one, not just for sign painters. In general, lettering stuff is in there. Would definitely recommend his sign painting classes. So much fun. Oh yes, and Hannah Smith says 100 plus 100 on Mike Myers. Amazing. Yeah, ooh, that sounds so fun. I love sign painting. I did a little bit of sign painting back in my day for a couple of my clients, and it's so fun to get back to that kind of style of like creating lettering off the screen. Try to get a little bit of it. I think I liked that sharp. Okay, I am really liking where this is going. I'm going to leave it alone so it can marinate. I'll have to figure out if this connects or if it just kind of picks up. Maybe we tried 2, and you guys can tell me with fresh eyes. Like if I option drag this down, we have 2 options for where the M meets the G. Maybe we grab it from the M on. It's like maybe it just kind of picks up, like someone's drawing the G stroke and then they pick up their pen and they go back into the M. Or the M can kind of run into the G and kind of be connected, but in a different way. So maybe I just kind of go like this. And you guys can tell me what you think is working. And maybe none of this is working. But let's see. All right, something like that maybe. And I can finesse that. That's a little awkward. It feels a little, but we can finesse it once we kind of figure out which is feeling the right. Okay. Protest says, hearing this healed me so fast, you should start therapy for designers. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I only know because I've been doing this for so long, and sometimes it'll be like, usually I have this problem where like when I start, I'm like, this is gold, this is amazing, I love all these options, it's exactly what the client wanted, they're gonna love this. And then inevitably the day before the meeting, the client meeting, where I need to present all these options, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this all trash? Is this all trash? Is this even like is this even close to their mood board? Like, are they gonna like this? And so I think you have to remind yourself, like, hey, this is a starting point. If they like even something 50%, we can finesse it and we can riff on it. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. Okay, so I'm also going to grab my width variation tool and just create some smaller, let's go 5 here, and let's go 5 here, because it's getting a little heavy there. Sometimes you have to, this width variation tool can get kind of awkward. This is when I might take it into glyphs to kind of get a little bit more control, but you can see how that will help me where those two places meet, where the stem kind of meets that top of that bowl. It's going to just help me kind of create a little bit more space. Double click that and get that on 5 as well. So I might have to finesse that a bit further, but you can see how that looks much nicer than what's going on with A. See how that creates a lot of, it looks, if you looked at it visually, you'd be like, yeah, that's all the same, but it just creates a little bit more space. And I might lessen it a touch, but you need to go down to, or up to 6, but it still really helps. All right, so I'll keep finessing that on my own time, but I'm really kind of digging that. Can't you just imagine this in metal? And I actually have something that I can start testing things on. So let's say I do need to kind of fill in if this is actually going to be a whole square or not. Let's just pull in some of these as an example into our little tester. I'm going to go Command-Shift-O because you can't paste live text into Figma. And Adam gave me these really great images that I can use to mock up different designs on. I might even just drag them into Illustrator. But this will be like a fun little test of like, is this working? How does this look? So I'm going to group that and just start kind of mocking it up on some of these tags for his products. And then we're going to kind of get a gut check. Already that's looking really nice. And I haven't even like finessed the kerning yet or the rounds. I mean, that's like the vibes are there. All right, that's pretty good. Okay, Protest says yes. Oh man. Oh, Victoria Alvarez says there's apparently a great sign painting class in Huntington. Victoria, that makes so much sense because Orange County is like custom culture, car, bikes. My friend Harpoon does tons of custom bike painting in Orange County. And I feel like there's just like a big demand for that kind of vibe in Orange County. So there must be an amazing sign painting class somewhere in Orange County. Okay, so that's pretty good. I'm gonna grab, also as a gut check, I'm gonna grab this awesome little monoline, which I'm really loving. I'm gonna go into Figma and I'm gonna paste that in and see how that one's kind of looking. Yeah, these look great. I think these are looking really great. Okay, so that'll be kind of where Fuzzy Bison says, ooh, that's pretty. So that's good. That'll be my gut check of like, it's kind of amazing how, you'll really like something that you've created in here in Illustrator and you'll say, oh, it's gonna be great. And then you paste it into like your mockups and kind of test it in application and you're like, oof, that doesn't work. It's a little too fine or whatever it is. So already I think that some of these are it might be a little too wide, but I really like the idea of it. So I'm just gonna test something. I'm just gonna smoosh it and just see. Ooh. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I kind of love that. It's like, we definitely need to do some finessing, but there's something there. And I think I think what is throwing me is there's a lot of open space over here. What if that K stem comes down a bit further? Again, to kind of like feel a little bit more like a signature. Okay, Victoria has linked a great sign painting class in Orange County. Hannah Smith says, my friend Harpoon. I know, how amazing is that name? His real name is John, but he goes by Harpoon. And he rides these amazing choppers, or he used to. He does the most amazing custom paint jobs for all the classic cars in kind of like LA, OC area. And yeah, he's a great follow. The Harpoon, I think, on Instagram. But anyway, he also does like huge murals for all the local schools. Does a lot of lettering. Super talented guy. Yeah, I'm really digging this. I don't know what I'm thinking about. Chat, do we have a preference on how the M is connecting to the G? Down here, you can see I've got it kind of like looped into the G. It's touching. And then in the middle, I have it kind of separated out. I'm kind of leaning towards separated, because then it's also really easy to make this stackable. Adam Kingman says yes to the smoosh. Yes. Okay. It's actually really handy that Adam's just like right here to make decisions with us. I think, Adam, I don't know if you have a preference since you're right here. I hate talking about you like you're not in the room. Maybe it's like, do you like it unconnected or connected? I kind of like it unconnected because then we can do this. I'm just going to delete this one. And I think what would be fun to do is if I just option drag down this one. Okay, Hannah says separate them. Yes, love that. And Fuzzy Bison says, I'm liking the one with the break between the G and the M, the break with the underline. Something about the break and the underline are dancing. I love it. Okay, good. That's great. Because then what we can do is, this is kind of fun. And I love type that is living and has different iterations because look how cool this is. It's almost the perfect, you know. And I think in this instance, we would do like maybe an alternate G, but you could see how this could maybe form a really nice, maybe it's like, does it go? No, I think we need to have an alternate G. I think it would just basically stop here and here. Let's see if we can just make this really quickly. And then we could do, and this will be like the stacked version, which we'll often do for clients. It's like oftentimes you have to, you have to make some adjustments. It doesn't always, it's not just a one-for-one separated thing. So this could be kind of fun to have Kingman. And then this can kind of go there. Man, that looks cool. This is kind of giving Stussy vibes, which is honestly I've been chasing these vibes my whole life. The Stussy logo is one of the most amazing logos. It's just one of my favorite, hands down. Okay, these two, wow, these feel good. These feel, there's like an edge to them. I think they would be thick enough to do embroidery, to do all the different things on. I might thin it out a touch, but there's something going on there that feels good, so I'm gonna keep that. Natasha says, wow, magic. Icefire says, separated with le smoosh. Yes, I love le smoosh. Okay, so I'm going to, the hardest part is like keeping track of everything. So what I'll do once I get to the point where I'm like, what is all this, is I'll start labeling. And Draplin, he always had great tips about this. We did a conference together in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I got to audit his class, and it was so fun. That guy is a machine. So we'll say thin with, or disconnected. And we'll just make this a little bit smaller. We'll go to figure, which again is such a great font. And this is just going to be my little notes for me so that I know what the heck I'm doing. And then we're going to just make this change case to title case. Okay, and then this one is medium disconnected, which we probably don't need to say out loud, but it is. And then this is connected. Okay, I need to turn my caps off. And thick. Okay. So that just kind of helps me know, like sometimes when you get back into your file, you're like, what's the difference? And it's like, you know, those spot the difference games on the back of like Captain Crunch boxes. It truly becomes like an aptitude test trying to figure out what you did in your own file. So, okay, so then on these ones, this is just testing font pairings. We'll just say font pairings. I'm just leaving myself a little breadcrumb trail so that I know what's going on. Wayne Lazungu says, looks good stacked. I agree. I really like the stacked mark. I could see that being like a unique little patch that could be fun for different areas. Yeah, that could be fun. Circle patch, embroidered. The wide one, the horizontal one, obviously would make a killer embroidered hat. And our mutual friends, Adam and I's mutual friends, Known Supply Co., if you ever need blanks that are ethically sourced and they pay a great living wage and they're so soft. It's actually this hat that I'm wearing right now. Our friends at Known Supply, they have such amazing blanks. So this hat that we made, the creative staff hat, this is one of their blanks. It's the cap hat. They have camp hat. They have tons of different blanks and they're all made, ethically made and sourced, organic, a lot of organic options. Very cool. Known Supply. B, if you're in the chat, if you want to link it, we'll link it in the show notes after. But we do a lot of our merch kind of through them. And it'd be fun to get some merch made with some of this stuff for sure once he gets his logos chosen. Okay, so we've got that option. This is kind of, sometimes what I'll do is I'll put the old yellow dot trick of like what's working, what are we keeping, and what do we need to riff on. So this is good. And I might even go green because yellow feels in progress and green kind of feels like this is getting close. We just need to finesse. Okay. I still want to try this straight up option, and I'm of course going to keep riffing on this Kingman and just make sure that like the angles are right. I could see us trying a few things. Like if I just drag this down for now, what if we try the le smoosh like we had done previously, because it is a touch wide. And the cool thing about smooshing is this text now probably will fit in a little nicer, which is cool. And let's just remove it for now because we don't really need that. Let's just see if we can make it work without it. And I wonder if maybe on this one it doesn't need to be such a long G. Maybe we just go for like, you know, it's like we have the ascender on the K and we have the descender on the G, and maybe that's enough. Now that I've shortened this little swash, I'm realizing that it's a little bit hefty. Your horizontal strokes always feel optically heavier than your vertical stems. It's just one of those weird optical things. So if you look at a font, if you like outline it, you'll often notice that the horizontals are just a little bit, ever so slightly finer or thinner than the verticals. And it just optically looks right. I could probably even do it more, honestly. Do that again. Oops. I really need to scale these up and work a touch larger. Okay. Yeah. Burzon said, yay, my show is on. I love that. I love that. Speaking of shows, is everybody watching Widow's Bay? And if you're not, what are you even doing? It's so delightful. It's like scary, but not too scary. Like you can totally sleep after, which is great. Yeah, it's just, it's amazing. Okay, cool. Let's see. The best part of Widow's Bay is the casting. Like, I don't know who did the casting, but it's so perfect in every way. Just like, I forgot her name, but the Irish lady, that's like the main, I can't remember her name. I can't believe I forgot her name. Does anyone know who I'm talking about? But she is so funny in this. She's just such a character. For some reason that K, and maybe I need to adjust it on all of them, but for some reason that stem is feeling a little diminutive to me. So I think I might just optically make it a little thicker. And I might also just make this leg a little thicker too. I think, you know, when you do capitals, and I know Adam wants to do this as a lowercase, but sometimes when you do a capital, it'll just be a touch thicker. That might be too much. Again, I kind of need to sleep on this because I don't want to, it's like it's really hard to see the wood from the trees. The other thing that I might do is just grab all of these anchor points on the left-hand side, and I think I might have sheared it a touch too much. So I'm just gonna grab all of these. Oh shoot. And I need to keep going and just keep grabbing them, and then we can move them all together, which will be nice. Grab that. The hardest part is knowing which ones to pick. I think I'll keep that. Grab that. Yes, yes. And then you'll see what I'm trying to do here. And then I can just go down and to the left. And it's just gonna make it a little less angular. Be like that. And then I can adjust this as well. Patricia, yes, Reifenberg. Patricia's Sunset Cocktails, yes. Oh my gosh. These episodes are so funny. They remind me of the ridiculous episodes of the X-Files, which I'm obsessed with the X-Files. And like around season, I want to say like 5 or 7, it's the season that Luke Wilson is in, and the season where they do like the Frankenstein spinoff. But they start doing these really silly episodes that are just so fun. It's like back when there was 20 episodes in a, you know, in a season of television, and you could have fun with 1 or 2. It kind of feels like that vibe. Okay, cool. So you can see that like if I compare this to the top one, the angles are just a little bit less angular. It's just, see how it's like, just that cap there is just a little bit more friendly. Cool. So yeah, I'm gonna let that marinate. All right, so let me go ahead and share with you all. It's already 1:30, so we've been doing this for an hour and a half. So I'm gonna keep working on this on my own, but this is kind of what I would do if I was going to start making this proof deck, just to kind of share a little bit of process on that end. So like I said, we'll usually make all of our decks in Figma. Here's kind of, I had walked you all through it at the top of the show, but you know, our discovery deck that we did with Adam to just kind of get on the same page, make sure that his vision was coming through clearly. And we just like to repeat back what he said to us in the meeting and just synopsize it. The thing that we find most clients really like is like you being able to explain back to them really succinctly what they asked for. I think a lot of people, you know, it's just really hard to kind of synthesize down into the most important key things that you're looking to do. It's like you could have notes and notes and pages, and that's because it's so important to you. So just being able to like simplify it into like key goals that are like 1 to 2 lines, we find our clients are just really, they just really love that part of the project. So I'll usually just duplicate my discovery in Figma, in Figma, and I'll go logo round 1 proof. And I can usually start from here. And I always recap what our goals were. So like in this one, obviously the goal was to, if I just scroll over here, create a script inspired maker's mark for Adam Kingman. And so I'll keep that usually. I'll keep this because I want to walk him through the process. He's here with us now, but if he wasn't, it's like you want to remind them of what the goals were. And I don't need to probably keep everything. Sometimes it can be overkill. But this is especially handy if you have a client that is like really, they have 100 things going on. They're a CMO, they're a, you know, CCO, they're overseeing like 30 different projects, and this is not top of mind for them. Usually it's more back burner for them. And so reminding them of like, here's what we all agreed to, here's the brand traits that we're trying to stick within, this is the vibe we're going for. Make sure that they didn't forget what we were going for here, the goals, and they kind of have a prepped mind to receive all the creative you're about to show them. Because just showing creative in a vacuum, it's like, it almost always leads to tears. It almost always leads to them being like, well, why'd you do that? And they kind of forget what, you know, what we'd all agreed to and what the plan was. You know, they've just got so many other things going on. So I'll usually keep those pages. I don't always keep the mood board. Sometimes people can be so attached to the mood board that they're like, I wanted it to look like this, and it doesn't look exactly like that. And it's like, well, yeah, we're trying to create something special for you. So sometimes I don't like to include the mood board. I think people can use it too much as a crutch or a one-to-one. But some clients really like to see it. So, you know, use your best judgment. And then I'll start going in here with like, I'll usually like duplicate the cover page, and I will just start with like option 1A. And the key here is always like making your options really clearly marked so that you can discuss them very clearly. The worst is when they're like, I like the one with the circle, and then you start making all the edits to the wrong one. You know what I mean? So having a really clean proof deck is like so key. We sell our proof deck in our shop, and I can actually go over here. Let's see, proof deck. We're actually working on a new version of it right now. So I might copy some pages that I have in here. Let's go into proof deck. Here we go. And aside from just showing the logos, you know, to their best, you know, just kind of like showing all the different versions of it, we also like to do, we like to kind of share the story behind what the story is behind the forms. You know, is there any kind of storytelling or Easter egg within the logo mark that they might not see, that, you know, if they're showing this to somebody that wasn't at the meeting, they can walk through these notes if you give them handy little notes. This might be too much text, but so we'll put a little text in there that kind of explains fun little Easter eggs or hidden meanings. We'll show it in white reverse and in black on white, and then we'll also show it on color if color is something that we're digging into. And then we always do application examples. So in our case, we have those nice photos that we're going to do. But yeah, we like to show it kind of larger and then smaller so that we can test scalability. And so that's probably what I'll be working on in my own time as well, is just putting together a proof deck. I'll definitely be showing him some sort of a mock-up like this, where I take a screenshot of his social and I show him like how this could work in an avatar, because like I said, he's really big on social media. I'm convinced he's going to have his own show one day. So we have to make sure that the socials are easily branded and we can get, you know, good brand recognition with the logo mark that we choose. So I'll probably just copy this in. I can paste in all the screenshot that I need, but I can start creating my proof deck, which is great. All right, so that's kind of what I'll do on my spare time. All right. Whew, we've been going an hour and a half strong, so I think here's like a pretty good place to call it a day. Let's see. Let me change back to here. Does anybody have any questions before we leave? Is there anything else anybody wants to see? I feel like I'm always trying to share our process, but I didn't have as much time to pre-prep slides as I have in times past for our Adobe Lives. But yeah, somebody said Burzon said, "Oh wow, I have to pick it up." Yeah, we sell our proof deck in our site in our shop because it's just been so helpful for us. Mackie Saturday, a friend of mine who used to work at Chermayeff Geismar Haviv, which is like a really legendary brand studio, and they've created some of the most iconic logos of our time. And I was like, "How do you like get clients to approve things? How do you like contextualize?" And he was like, "It's all about the decks." And I'll tell you what, when we got our decks dialed, it absolutely changed the game for getting great work approved and getting clients really invested in the concepts and the story and the process. And it also helps you get a higher level of client that's willing to pay more because you're kind of showing them not just like logo in a vacuum, but like how this is going to spin out across the whole brand and the storytelling. And a logo is not, it's just a starting point, right? It's just, it's just one of the building blocks of a successful brand. So we were able to sell much larger packages after that. So anyway, if you've been having trouble building your decks, I get it. Jen built ours and I'm a horrible deck maker, but Jen is a phenomenal deck maker. So anyway, we sell ours if that's helpful. Check it out on the shop. But anyway, thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been so much fun. I might do another one once I kind of finesse these things in, and once Adam picks his favorite, we can maybe riff on edits if he has edits, and we might work on some fun little badges too. I didn't have time to work on that today, but I'd love to do some little secondary badges, even though it wasn't in scope, but I think it would just be really fun to do. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Carla, Victoria, Rada, Victor Mills, what's up? Hannah, the whole crew. It's been a blast. Definitely like and subscribe if you want to come back at another time and you want to be updated on these videos. All right, we will catch you next time. Amy Hood here, signing off. See you guys later.